Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. How are you? I hope all of you are in good condition. During this pandemic, you must stay healthy and stay safe. And the most important is don't forget to be happy. Okay, until now we are still learning from home with online learning, is that right? And this is the impact of the spread of COVID-19. And of course, this is done as an effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19 transmission. Okay, now we shift to one of the educational programs delivered by our MOEC, Mr. Nadim, about the philosophy of Merdeka Belajar. Merdeka Belajar means freedom of learning, which is to give students the opportunity to learn as freely as they can to learn calmly, relax, and happily without stress and pressure by paying attention to their natural talents. Well, in this opportunity, I want to talk about what is the relation between the impact of COVID-19 to Indonesian education and the philosophy of Merdeka Belajar. We will discuss this topic for about 15 minutes. If you have some question at the end of this session, I will tell you how to ask question to me related to this topic. Before we discuss this topic any further, I am Kurrotul Hasanah from the Mathematics Education Study Program at the State University of Surabaya. And my reference article is an article entitled The Impact of COVID-19 to Indonesian Education and its Relation to the Philosophy of Merdeka Belajar. This article was written by Abidah and her friends. Okay, in the next slide, we will talk about an overview on this topic. Do you know, guys? The first point, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic spread to the world of education. The policies taken by many countries, including Indonesia, by dismissing all educational activities make the government and related institutions must present alternative educational process for students. Second point, the number of COVID-19 positive patients per day is always increasing. Of course, some of them recovered and some of them died. Third point, the latest statistic from UNESCO mentioned that students were affected by the COVID-19 virus from 87.1% of the total students enrolled. It means that the total number of students who are potentially at risk from pre-primary to high school education is very high. Currently, in Indonesia, several schools or universities are starting to implement policies on teaching and learning activities from a distance or online lectures like this. This is actually not a problem for schools or universities that already have an online academic system, but it will be a problem for schools or universities that do not yet have an online academic system. And the last point is the MOEC ready with all scenarios. It is including the application of working together to encourage online learning for students. In an effort to keep students studying at home, the MOEC has prepared a number of support to smooth the process. They developed distant learning application based on Android. My reference article presents a position or view of the authors regarding the influence of the COVID-19 plague on education and its relation to the philosophy of freedom learning promoted by the MOEC. So, how the author analyzed the topic? The first point is this article is kind of position paper. It represents one side of an arguable opinion about an issue, like the situation in a debate. The aim of a position paper is to persuade the reader that the author's opinion is valid and defensible. Second point, there are steps in writing a position paper. The first is select a topic for the paper. After that, conduct preliminary research. After that, challenge the topic, continue to collect supporting evidence, and the last is create an outline. Third point is the study was also part of spontaneous study based on the trending issue in the world. Therefore, there are some people were interviewed in order to support the ideas and argument. Three teachers, five students, three parents, and two faculty members were interviewed. So, what will be discussed on this opportunity? We are going to talk about four things that consist of the first is the philosophy of Merdeka Belajar. Second is digital learning in Indonesia to face COVID-19. Third is Merdeka Belajar, Digital Learning, COVID-19, and Author's View. In the next slide, we will discuss these four things one by one. The first discussion about the philosophy of Merdeka Belajar. Indonesian Minister of Education and Culture, Mr. Nadiem Makarim, established four national learning programs. He calls these four programs education policies Merdeka Belajar. The program includes the first, replace the National Standard School Examination. The National Standard School Examination so far the graduation of school students. Schools are free to make examination autonomously. Second point is remove the national examination. National examination will be abolished in 2021, replaced by the minimum competency assessment and character survey. The UN substitute examination will be held in the middle of the level, not at the end of the level like the current UN. Third point, one sheet of lesson plan. The lesson plan has so far contained 11 components covering subject identity, competency standard, basic competencies, basic material, and time allocation. The RPP is simplified into one sheet. And the last point is loosen zoning. Zoning regulation for new student acceptance is loosened up. The quota of outstanding students who were previously 15% increased to 30%. Student quota in the school zone is reduced from 80% to 50%. In the level of university, the MOEC also implement Campus Merdeka as follows. The Merdeka Campus Policy is a continuation of the concept of Merdeka Belajar. Its implementation only changes ministerial regulation, not to change government regulation or laws. There are four main points. The first point, opening of new study program to state and private universities. This program gives autonomy to state and private universities to open new study programs. But this autonomy is not free. Public and private universities must have A and B accreditation, and they have collaborated with universities included in top 100 world universities with exceptions for health and education study programs. The MOEC will work closely with universities and study program partners to conduct surveillance. Meanwhile, research studies must be done every year. Then, higher education is obliged to ensure this is applied. Second point is higher education accreditation. The re-accreditation program will be automatic for all grades and voluntary for college and study programs that are ready to advance in rank. While accreditation that has been established by the National Accreditation Board for Higher Education remains valid for 5 years, but will be renewed automatically. Submission of higher education and study program accreditation is limited to 2 years after the previous accreditation. The third point is for universities of becoming PTNBH. This policy is related to freedom for public university as public service agency and work unit to become PTN legal entity. The MOEC will simplify its requirements without being bound by accreditation status. And the last point is replacing the semester credit unit into a work program outside the classroom. Undergraduate students can take courses outside their study program. Higher education must provide the right for students to volunteer. So, students can take or not to take credits outside the campus for 2 semesters. Additionally, students can also take SKS in other study programs on campus as much as 1 semester from the total semester that must be taken. However, the policy doesn't apply to health study program. The activities are activities in class, internship, industrial work practices, research, independent studies, and others. Next, we continue to the second discussion about digital learning in Indonesia to face COVID-19. The first point, MOEC developed distant learning application based on portal and Android Rumah Belajar. In order for students to continue studying at home, The MOEC has prepared a number of support to facilitate the process. MOEC itself developed distance learning application based on a portal and Android Rumah Belajar. This portal can be accessed at learning.kemendikbud.go.id. Second point is some excellent features that can be accessed by students and teachers include learning resources, digital classes, virtual laboratories, and question banks. Learning centers can be utilized by students and teachers of early childhood education, elementary schools, junior high school, senior high school, and vocational schools or equivalent. And the last point is the MOEC has partnered with 7 online learning platforms, namely Class, Ruang Guru, Sekolahmu, Zenius, Wiper, Google Indonesia, and Microsoft. Each platform will provide facilities that are publicly accessible and free. Okay, next we continue to the third discussion about Merdeka Belajar, Digital Learning, COVID-19, and Author's View. The first point is could predestine the plague of COVID-19 not to be a coincidence. In the same situation, Indonesia has also realized the necessity to implement a free learning program. In the midst of situation, we require self-quarantine, physical and social distancing. Therefore, for education to continue, distance education or online must absolutely be done. As described above, various platforms have been prepared to support learning in the era of limitation. This condition gives opportunity to students and teachers to implement independence in learning. They are free to explore. Learning can be done anywhere, from the house, the room, the garden, the boarding room, or dormitory as long as the desire to think from humans is contained. Second point, if there are no operational instructions for learning from home, creating familiarity by creating a family library is a productive choice. It can be in the living room, a special study room, to a permanent room allocated for a private library. The way to do it together is to prepare a place for displaying books from family collection as in the library in general. Then, the various book collections are arranged according to the theme of the discussion. That point, moreover, if then other family members imitate to produce written book, of course, creating literacy in the family is not limited to discourse. Literacy education, but also has become a family planning program that is not limited to reading, but continue to write in order to produce product or writing from the basic educational environment, namely the family. Okay, guys, and this is the last discussion. Next, we will talk about what can we say from all explanation. In general, COVID-19 has a significant impact on the world of education, including in educational system in Indonesia. Traditional and routine learning shift to distance learning. Although this situation is in line with the vision and mission of future learning in the era of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 and Community 5.0, it still has advantage and disadvantage. In terms of strength, of course, online learning is not limited by space and time, especially since the government called for self-quarantine, physical and social distancing. However, the current freedom cannot be interpreted as unlimited freedom in learning. As we have already discussed above, there were 4 points in free learning and 4 main things in an independent campus. Okay, guys, it is all for me. Hopefully, it is useful for all of you. Thank you for your attention. If you have some question, you can ask me anytime via my email or my WhatsApp. And the last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.